Ever promised yourself you'd turn in early only to find yourself 2 hours deep into doom scrolling at 1 a.m.? Or maybe you've hit snooze on that morning run for, the fourth day in a row? If so, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's dive into this explainer and unpack the architecture of human behavior and figure out how we can finally reclaim our focus. Whether you're trying to break a bad habit or build a brand new one, mastering your own mind really is the ultimate challenge. We're going to look at the latest science, psychological models, and some super practical frameworks to understand exactly how we tick, and more importantly, how we actually change. So, why is it literally so hard to just stop? We're starting off by tackling this universal modern struggle. Why does our self-control seem to fail us completely in the 21st century? Look, it's not a personal failing, it's a massive evolutionary mismatch. Our brains are fundamentally hardwired for a hunter-gatherer environment, where high-calorie sweets and instant novelties were super rare but totally essential for survival. Fast forward to today, and we're navigating this insane digital landscape of infinite scrolls and constant stimulation, but we're doing it using prehistoric hardware. We're constantly battling between what our logical brain knows we should do and what our biology is screaming at us to do right now. Here's the roadmap for this explainer. We'll hit the modern dopamine dilemma, systems and new identities, the science of self-control, the 4 laws of change, and finally, embracing discomfort and discipline. Let's get right into it.
Part 1, the modern dopamine dilemma and how we actually reclaim focus in the 21st century.
Think about the world we live in. Our society heavily rewards instant dopamine hits over the long-term meaning and discipline you actually need for a fulfilling life. On one hand, we've got one-click shopping, endless screen dependency, and instant gratification. On the other hand, we deeply know that true meaning comes from sacrifice, discipline, and long-term projects. There's a great piece from Andrews University that points out we're living in this era of happiness seekers, where the mere concepts of sacrifice and discipline have become wildly unpopular. It's kind of like we expect the reward and the runner's high of completing a marathon just by buying the running shoes online. This whole environment just makes it incredibly difficult to maintain focus on those distant long-term goals. Moving on to part 2, systems and new identities. This is the macro architecture of change. Before we can fix our actions, we really have to fix our mindset. Cognitive behavioral therapy reveals that a lack of self-discipline usually stems from these unhelpful beliefs that we unconsciously tell ourselves just to avoid discomfort. Picture this. You're sitting on the couch telling yourself, man, I really need to go to the gym, but I just don't have the energy. I need to be in the perfect mood to start. Or maybe you think, changing my diet shouldn't be this agonizing. CBT basically calls our bluff on these excuses. When we lack discipline, we cling to these cognitive traps because they give us a super convenient free pass to avoid the hard work. Realizing that discomfort isn't a red flag to stop, but actually a required part of the process, well, that's the very first step toward overcoming it. How many times have you set a massive New Year's resolution only to abandon the whole thing by the second week of February, right? But the goal wasn't the problem. Author James Clear hits the nail on the head here. Bad habits repeat themselves not because you don't want to change, but because you just have the wrong system for change. Goals are purely about the results you want to achieve, but systems are about the daily processes that lead to those results. So if you're struggling, the problem isn't your willpower, it's your system. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. True, lasting change requires building identity-based habits. This is where your actions become a mirror image of the person you subconsciously believe you are. Let's make this concrete. Imagine someone is offered a cigarette. An action-based response is, oh, no thanks, I'm trying to quit. That person still fundamentally believes they are a smoker who is just trying to do something else. But an identity-based response, that's simply, no thanks, I'm not a smoker. It is a subtle shift, but it changes absolutely everything. You decide who you want to be, and then you use small daily actions to prove that new reality to yourself. Let's drill down into part 3, the science of self-control, and look at the mid-level mechanics. Research actually shows that adopting what psychologists call high-level construals, which basically just means asking yourself why instead of how, shifts your attention to broader values and massively reduces the pull of temptations. Think of the epic daily battle between eating an apple or a frosted donut. When you focus on a low-level construal, you're zoomed way in on the concrete details, the glossy glaze on that donut, how sweet it's going to taste right this second. But if you shift to a high-level construal, you're zooming out to abstract, long-term goals. You ask, wait, why do I want to eat healthy? Oh, right, to have more energy for my kids. When you do that, you are scientifically far more likely to choose the apple. Shifting your perspective literally shifts your desires. And this syncs up beautifully with B.F. Skinner's old-school behavioral techniques. He proved that manipulating your physical environment, what we often call choice architecture, is way more effective than just white-knuckling it with pure willpower. Skinner showed us that self-control is largely environmental, not just mental. Look, if you want to stop doom scrolling in bed, don't just lay there flexing your mental toughness while your phone is sitting right on your nightstand. Buy a cheap physical alarm clock and charge your phone in the kitchen overnight. You're using physical restraint and changing the stimulus to make the bad habit physically annoying to accomplish while making the good behavior totally effortless. Whenever we encounter a stimulus, our brain runs through this lightning-fast 4-step neurological feedback loop that creates an automatic habit: cue, craving, response, and reward. Let's look at this in real time. Your phone buzzes on your desk. Boom, that's the cue. You feel a sudden spike of FOMO, wondering who just messaged you. That's the craving. You pick it up and unlock it, the response. You see a funny meme from a friend and laugh, the reward. Understanding this loop is absolutely crucial because if you can isolate the cue and the craving, you can intercept your own response before it goes completely on autopilot.
Which brings us to part 4, the 4 laws of change. Let's look at how we can hack this with micro-actions.
This framework synthesizes James Clear's 4 laws of behavior change. It shows exactly how to build a good system and how to invert the rules to break a bad one. Instead of just relying on motivation, you basically become a behavioral engineer. If you want to build a habit of reading more, make the cue obvious. Put a book right on your pillow. Make the craving attractive by pairing it with a cup of your favorite tea. Make the response easy by committing to reading just one single page. And make the reward satisfying by tracking your streak on a calendar. To break a bad habit, you do the exact opposite. You make it invisible, unattractive, incredibly difficult, and completely unsatisfying.
Now, what is truly mind-blowing about this mathematical approach is that if you focus on getting just 1% better every day, you don't just get a little better. You will end up 37 times better over the course of a single year. 37 times. We constantly overestimate the importance of these massive, dramatic, defining moments, and we totally underestimate the value of tiny daily improvements. It's literally the compound interest of self-improvement. Coasting and getting 1% worse steadily takes you down to almost 0, but getting 1% better, that accumulates into breathtaking success.
This metaphor perfectly captures why we have to be patient with ourselves. Seriously, let's give ourselves some grace here. You are actively fighting against billion-dollar dopamine algorithms that were specifically designed by tech companies to hijack your attention. You can't uproot a powerful oak tree in a single afternoon, and you certainly can't rewire a brain that's accustomed to years of instant gratification overnight. It takes the gentle, deliberate, persistent care of cultivating a flower just one day at a time.
Finally, part 5, embracing discomfort and discipline. This is where action meets reality.
When you feel completely paralyzed by the need for perfect conditions, start with a 5-minute excuse. Just commit to 5 minutes of an activity to break that cycle of avoidance. Tell yourself you're just going to put on your running shoes and walk out the front door, or you're just going to open the laptop and type one single paragraph. If you genuinely want to turn around and quit after 5 minutes, give yourself full permission to do so. But you know what? You rarely will, because the absolute hardest part is simply overcoming the mental friction of starting. To maintain this level of self-discipline, you've got to invest time in knowing yourself and uncovering your own blind spots. For instance, knowing your circadian rhythm is an absolute game changer. If you know your peak mental energy is at 9 a.m., guard that time fiercely. Do not schedule your hardest, most discipline-heavy tasks for that 3 p.m. slump when your willpower is completely drained. Identify what specific environments trigger your dopamine cravings. Recognizing these hidden drivers is hard work, for sure, but it's the only way to establish true mastery over your energy and your focus. Meaningful change doesn't actually require radical, overnight transformation. Think of it like this. Every action you take is just a tiny vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance, like eating one salad or missing one workout, will magically transform your beliefs. But as these small, 5-minute daily votes build up, so does the undeniable evidence of your new identity. You're simply casting enough small votes through your daily habits to prove to yourself that you are, in fact, the disciplined person you want to be. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to consider right now as you step away from this explainer and head back into your daily routine. You have the systems, you understand the science, and you know the laws of change. The only thing left is the execution. So, what is one tiny, slightly uncomfortable thing you can do for just 5 minutes today to prove you're the one in control? The polls are open. Go cast your vote.